Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Untamed and Unhinged Reptile Podcast. Tonight, we have a very special episode for you all. We are doing the very first ladies' night. So we're super excited. I am Jennifer of Mod Exotics, and I have the pleasure of hosting this wonderful show tonight. Tonight with me, we have Nikki Justice of Obsessed Exotics. Let's welcome Nikki on. There she is. We also have Julie Gavin of Crested G Ranch. Julie, so good to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
And last but certainly not least, we have Abby Stone, the curly-haired keeper. So welcome, Abby.
Hello.
Thank you all for being on tonight. I am super excited to have this conversation with all of you. I think there's just so few women in the reptile industry that it's really important that we kind of band together and, learn from each other's experiences as well. So if you don't mind getting us started, Julie, I'm going to call on you first. Tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, how long have you been in the industry? What do you keep? A little bit about your background.
Okay. My husband and I have been keeping crested geckos is where we started. So that was in about 2018, 2019. And so we've been breeding those for a few years now, since about 2018. And we also now breed the Iridactylodes species, the little micro geckos. We have electric blue day geckos and neon day geckos. We've also have a pair of giant blue beady anoles that we're breeding. That's pretty cool. We've got 3 babies from them, or 3 juveniles from them. But our main, our big thing is the green tree pythons. So we've been breeding those for 3 seasons now. So yes, very exciting.
Awesome. And you just recently had a clutch too of the green tree python.
We did. A clutch of 6. All red. I was surprised they were all red because the dad is a yellow and mom was a red Neo. We knew that, but yeah, all red babies.
Red dominant. That's awesome. Congratulations. Mm-hmm. We'll get into that a little bit more later. I want to give our other guests a chance to introduce themselves as well. Yeah. Nikki, would you introduce yourself, please, and tell us a little bit about what you keep, how long you've been in the hobby?
Yeah, so I'm Nikki. I've been in the hobby for only 2 years, if you can believe it. I do keep a variety of monitors along with retics. And then we actually just had our first partho with one of our monitors. So we're waiting on that to hopefully see what that happens. And then we keep random things as pets. I do have like a rhino iguana. I have some tegus and then tortoises.
Awesome. What species of tortoises do you keep? Is it more than one?
Redfoot tortoises, and then I have diamondback terrapin turtles.
Very cool. Awesome. Abby, the curly-haired keeper, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you keep.
So I keep, right now I have in my care, retics, boas are kind of my 2 primary ones. And then we do have a scrub python and a little secret baby that we'll share later. But yeah, that's kind of the primary one. I've only been in the industry for 2.5 years-ish, something like that. So not much longer than Nikki. So I'm also very much a newbie. And yeah, just kind of primarily focusing on kind of high quality care and advocacy work with the animals.
That's awesome. You do so much with the education. I think it's fantastic when we put out really good content and information about these animals to share with other people. That's fantastic work that you're doing.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about, and Abby, I'll let you take this one first. Tell me about what ignited your passion for reptiles.
I was the weird kid in the 90s who was always out like catching garter snakes in Oregon and like showing them to my friends and my mom. They loved it. They didn't really love it. And just, I was always confused why everyone was so scared of them. Cause I'm like, they're a garter snake. Like I just was born not afraid of them, which I'm very appreciative of because I know not everyone experiences that. And then a few years back, during the pandemic, I was like kind of reminded like, oh yeah, I really love reptiles. What is that all about now? And just took a deep dive into research. And about a year after that, got my first snake. So, and here we are.
Here we are.
Love it.
So awesome. Nikki, you call on you next. What ignited your passion for reptiles?
Growing up, I mean, I never was afraid of them. My mom, like, she was the one that taught me to be brave about it. My dad is terrified. Like, he won't even step foot in my house now. Like, but Taylor and I, we've been together for 9 years. And 2 years ago, he took me to my first reptile show, and I was like, what is this? Like, what is this holy grail of awesome things? And I got my first ball python, and then he was like, well, I want to go bigger. So then we got retics, and it just went from there.
Well, that's a jump. Ball
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, we literally went from balls to retics. I don't even know how it happened. He was like, well, I've kept balls, and I've kept like bearded dragons, and like I've kept all the boring stuff, and I want to keep like this stuff. And I'm like, okay. And it just, I don't care what we get. Like, I love it all.
That's awesome. And you keep mainland retics, right?
Yeah.
So you went very, very, very large.
Yeah, and we've never bred anything before. So like we literally just jumped right into retics. Nothing else.
That's wild. They're pretty special though. I'm a little biased because I'm a retic keeper myself, but they're pretty special animals. Julie, tell us a little bit about what ignited your passion for reptiles.
Oh, I don't know. I guess I've always loved reptiles too, but like I grew up in the desert Southwest in Colorado, and so there were a lot of things there, and I guess they didn't freak me out. They were more like I was intrigued by them more than anything, like just intrigued by these animals that were everywhere. So growing up, like we had a pet store open in our little town. Well, there was no information, and there was no information to find on the web. So we did our best with those critters, but they didn't do well. So I stopped keeping reptiles for a long time because I was so frustrated with, like, I knew I could have done better for them and didn't know how to care for them properly. So a few years ago in 2018, I wanted a pet for my classroom. So I was doing some research on things. And so crested gecko sounded like a perfect pet for a classroom. And so we fell in love with Oliver. And so then we bought 2 more for home. And then it just kind of snowballed. And then we're like, let's try breeding. Like, Nikki, we've never done it. Let's try it. What can we do?
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? And now we just have like, in this room I'm in, I have like 7 different species of animals just in this room. We've got tortoises, iguanas, retics, angolans, ball pythons, a boa, green trees. So just in this room. And then upstairs are like all the lizards and everything too. So like last night I was just like wanting to just like shout out to the world, reptiles. That's all. I love it. Like it's my thing.
I love it. Julie, you got me excited about crested geckos a couple of years ago, and I I went head over heels with them as well. They've been my fun little side project too. So I think, our passion that we have, it has a tendency to kind of catch fire and spread a little bit when we really, kind of show the world what excites us and what we love. It definitely wears off on other people. So let's get into this. This is ladies' night, right? So we are in a predominantly male-dominated hobby. Especially with some of the bigger pythons, the retics and the monitors too. That tends to be very male dominated. So what challenges have you faced? Nikki, I'll let you go first. What challenges have you faced being a female in a more male dominated hobby?
I would say like one of the big things that I face is like people don't realize how strong I can be when I need to be. Especially with mainland retic keeping. I feel like people look at me and they think, oh, she's just going to be a scared little girl about it. And it's not that way with me. Like, I know how to read an animal, and like, I know like if an animal is like going to come at me, and like, it's about reading the animal and like knowing your animal. So like, my husband, he's very like, I don't want you getting this one out by yourself, which I know he means well and he cares, and like he's just worried for me, and I understand and I love and appreciate that about him. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, well, what's the difference between me getting him out by myself and you getting him out by yourself? So I think that's like a big thing that I tend to kind of be like, okay, well, I can do it too. Like, you know, I know how to handle my animal just like you do. Now, granted, there are some that I will not get out by myself just because I know the animal. But I kind of wish that would tone down a little bit.
Yeah, I hear that a lot of times we get underestimated, especially with some of the bigger animals that, you know, they expect you need brute force to overcome these animals, whereas, you know, maybe just reading the animal and understanding them, we can handle them appropriately and not get hurt, even without using any kind of brute force. So feel free to ask your questions throughout this. I will kind of throw the questions to the ladies as we go. I know Chris has got a question for us, but before we get to his, I would like to know from Julie, what challenges you have faced in this male-dominated industry.
I really, because I'm not in the big snakes, the retics. Like I have one boa, I've got two retics, but they're the dwarf retic, and they're just babies now, so they're easy for me to handle because they do intimidate me. But I think they're absolutely beautiful. That's why I have them. I was like, smaller ones, can I get those? I really, being in the green tree python community and the others, I really have not faced many challenges. I felt like I've been welcomed by everybody in the community. Now I'll still get comments like on, you know, on my Instagram post or something, somebody be like, hey man, that's awesome. Or, hey bro, good job. I'm like, yeah, yes. So that, you know, there's just some of those assumptions that, you know, if it's a snake related thing, it's probably a man doing it. But as far as like where I'm at, I'm kind of the what's the word I'm looking for here? The person who does, what's the name for like the person who does all of the going back and forth with somebody? There's a word. Sorry, I'm out of words today. It was
You're the primary contact.
Well, my husband keeps. Yes, I am the person that I'm in charge of that. So like everybody, like I have lots of people contacting me all the time, male and female, and I don't ever get the feeling from any of them that they don't think I'm capable of what I'm doing.
That's great though. So, that's awesome.
Really refreshing to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abby, how about you? Any challenges that you've faced being in a primarily male-dominated hobby?
Me personally, not from the hobby itself. Like I think there's some ingrained kind of patriarchy kind of stuff that happens in the industry that I just noticed because of my background. But no, most of the pushback that I get is on social media from the general public. Like, you know, like Stella's gonna eat me, my 12-foot girl, or getting misgendered all the time. Like if it's just Stella and it's just like my hand or something, they're like, dude, they just assume that it's a guy because it's a big snake. I'm like, no, just little old me over here with her. No, she's not going to eat me because I weigh 130 pounds and she eats, like if I give her a 4-pound meal, she's like, I am struggling real hard. I'm like, just the general kind of assumptions that are made is what drives me crazy. So but yeah, again, most of that is just from the general public, not from the industry itself. Has been very welcoming and, you know, wonderful. So that's been nice.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. One of my early mentors, she was a female that was about your size, Abby, maybe a little bit smaller, and she would throw around these 100-pound retics like it was nothing because she knew how to work with their weight and not, you know, against them. And it was really incredible to learn from a woman who just, she had her shit together. Like she was just so good at what she did. Awesome. And I really, really admired her early on. So it's really nice to hear that, you know, the community as a whole has been very accepting of you and you haven't come across any like major challenges with the community that kind of puts you at a disadvantage. So along that lines, do you feel that there are advantages or disadvantages of being a female keeper in this industry? Abby, I'll throw it back to you.
I think there's a lot of advantages to being a female caretaker and kind of advocate for these animals in a male-dominated industry. One, it catches attention a little bit more, I think, for the general public, which is great. It's like, yes, come see what it's actually about. Let me trick you into coming into my world for a little bit. So that's kind of a nice side effect. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like you were pointing out, Jen, we kind of have to approach and work with the animals a little bit different because we are at a strength disadvantage when it comes to, like, most men are going to be stronger. Like, even if it's a man that's my size, they're naturally going to be stronger than I am. So learning how to work with the animals in an effective way for your, ability level is really awesome. I love working with the animals the way that I do. I know I can handle them if they give me an issue. I know I can take a bite if I need to take a bite. I also had some really amazing mentors along the way too, and still do, which I am so appreciative of. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents. I think there's oddly more advantages than disadvantages.
I have to say, women tend to be natural educators. So to your first point, that we grab attention a little bit more. I think it's just that, like, natural tendency to want to teach people, and to be able to, communicate very clearly, and let people know, that these animals aren't out to hurt us, and all of the educational aspects, really. Julie, do you feel that there are advantages or disadvantages to being a female keeper in this industry?
I agree with Abby. Like, I think it does give it a little bit of an edge of differentness for people. So they are kind of drawn to, like, what are you doing? Like, what do you have? People, I don't know, I feel like they're more open to wanting to listen and just really, like, how are you in this and how's this going? And because it is a male-dominated industry, but I feel like it's maybe beginning to equal out a little bit more. I don't know. And maybe that's just because I connect with a lot of female keepers. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of female keepers out there. So that's what I see too. So I don't know. I think it's an advantage.
So Julie, you do a lot of shows with your husband. I'm curious,
yes.
Just a social experiment, I guess. If the two of you are standing at a table, are people more likely to come up and talk to you, or are they more likely to come up and talk to him? Have you made that observation? I mean, that might be something you have to kind of think back in the catalog.
I haven't, we get pretty busy at the booth. So we kind of tag team. And like sometimes he'll just start talking to somebody or I'll just start talking to somebody. We try to be, especially at a show, like we try to be the ones to like welcome people and greet people and talk to them. Part of it's education and part of it's, we would love to, have an animal go home with you too. But so I think we kind of share that with both of us. I don't know. We haven't had any, maybe when we had the snakes on the table, we had a snake on the table for a show. They might have asked Todd more questions about the snake than they did me, but I'm the reason we have snakes. So I just take,
I love it.
I take credit for the snakes
on the table.
Yeah. So because we have snakes, like Todd was not a fan of snakes at the beginning. We could go to the show so he could see the reptiles and see the crested geckos and the lizards. But it took many reptile shows and a lot of pictures and showing, like, wouldn't this be cool to have? Before he agreed to let me have like this little baby corn snake. And it was just a little baby. And so we built a really nice bioactive habitat for it. And then I won't go on, but yeah, I can hit that later, but we went on from there.
Awesome. Yeah. Nikki, how about you? Do you feel that there's advantages or disadvantages to being a female in this hobby?
I mean, definitely, I see a lot of advantages. Like, I feel like people are going to see our names quicker than a guy's just because it is such a male-dominated hobby. Like the curly-haired keeper, I mean, you're not going to think of a guy that because I'm going to think of a bald guy. I don't think of, something like that. But I feel like our names are going to be more drawn, and also we have a different perspective on these animals, I feel like, than men do. I feel like there's more, I'm not saying men don't care, but I feel like there's a different maternal instinct that we have with our animals that males don't. And, you know, we're more keen to like, oh, I want to make it pretty and like make this really cool enclosure. And the guys are like, I got a stick for it, you know, like, and plus I feel like women are so much more social too. Like it's hard to go to some booths of some guys and be like, hey, can you tell me like how you take care of your leechies? And they're like, yeah, you get it a tank. And like, they're just like, I just feel like some of them aren't very social. But once you get them out of their shell, it's better. But girls, I feel like you don't automatically need to get me out of my shell. I'm like, what do you need? What can I tell you? How can I educate you? You know, like, I feel like we as women are like that. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we had Jody, Abby's husband, creeping on us a little bit, saying, "Hey." So hi, Jody. Good to see you.
He is the one that tends to be more chatty at reptile expos than me. Unless I know you, I am very awkward and like shy, and he is not. Like he's very like do 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 do. I'm like, okay, go. And he'll introduce the person to me. I'm like, this is so much easier for me because I don't have to work so hard.
You know, it's funny that you say that, Abby, because when I met you at Retic Fest, I think it was you who introduced yourself first, and then it was like, oh, and this is Jody.
I could have been
into the conversation too. Yeah. But very social from my first experience meeting you in person. Okay, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts. How do you think we attract more ladies to this hobby, and how can we help support them? How can we help support each other? I guess I will. Julie, would you like to take this one first?
Oh, I don't know. I was going to give myself some think time.
Oh, okay. Abby, I'll jump to you.
As a teacher, that's what we call it, think time.
Yeah. You want me to go, Jen?
Go ahead, Abby. Yeah. We'll come back to you, Julie.
Okay.
That's a really good question. I mean, honestly, I think like just sharing what we're doing is really useful, and like being transparent about what we're doing, essentially like leading by example for women who, not saying that I am still new. Like I said, I don't know, like I'm still figuring things out myself, but if someone who doesn't know anything, sorry.
The fact that you're willing, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the fact that you're like willing to acknowledge that you don't know everything, that's a huge first like important step. Like especially if you're wanting to recruit more females, we don't know everything, and we still learn from new keepers that are coming in. So don't feel bad about that at all.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, we need to. There's this need for like perfectionism a lot of times, and so we feel like if we don't know everything coming in, that we're not going to be good enough to do it. So I think that's a great way to support other women and being like, look, I don't know everything, but I'm doing it. You can do it too, and you'll learn it as you kind of go.
And we'll learn.
Right. And that's the other thing, is like just being open to the fact that your way is not the only, like, reptile keeping is not a one and done. This is the recipe. Here you go do this thing. It'll turn out perfect. It's like, that's not how reptile keeping works. It's not how amphibian, like anytime you're working with exotics is just not how it works. So the way that I keep my animals is going to look very different than what someone else is keeping or how someone else is keeping. And that's okay. As long as the animals are healthy and happy, you're doing it right. You're good. And I think the other thing that we do really well, and this is actually something I learned from a dude, from Rob Roush at Reach Out Reptiles, is taking the time to just listen and learn from the animals themselves. If you take the time to just stop and pay attention, they'll tell you what they need, and you just kind of go from there.
And I think being open like that with people, especially when you first meet them, that makes other women like more comfortable with you and more liable to reach out and ask for questions, ask questions or ask for help or ask for advice. when they know that you're not going to be judgmental, when they know that you're not judging them and what they're doing, and you're like, okay, well, this is what I tried, but sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, so that, that they just know that they can feel, and maybe that's where being a woman keeper is a little bit of an advantage, because people might feel more comfortable asking you questions, men or women, who might feel intimidated by somebody else, might be like, here's somebody who can help me, and I can get advice from them or just encouragement.
Yeah, I know Nikki helped me out when my one retic had the swollen eye, and she reached out, which I was super pissed. I shared a story. I was like, but her and a couple other people reached out and were like, hey, like, it's going to be okay. Like, I've gone through this before, blah, 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 which was very comforting. Because, like, whenever your animal isn't doing well, you're like, oh, no.
Yeah. You feel awful.
Yeah, you feel awful. But yeah, between Nikki and a couple other more experienced keepers than myself, who've been through before, I just got a lot of information and was able to get her taken care of. So yeah, it's great.
She's good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think she's shedding right now. She was sneezing earlier because she's literally shedding right now. I just hear her sneeze once in a while trying to get the shed out of her nose.
It's always a little nerve-wracking, isn't it? You're like, what was that? Was that
all right.
No.
That's how I know someone's either going into shed or starting to shed, is I'll just hear like a scream sneeze and I'm like, oh, it's just one of my retics. Okay, it's fine.
Yeah. More empathetic angle as opposed to the male ego. Look at me handling.
Tim.
No, absolutely, Tim. That's a really good point. We do approach things just a little bit differently than the guys might. Nikki, I want to give you another opportunity on this question. Do you think that there are ways that we can attract more women to the hobby, and some ideas around what we can do to support them?
So a woman actually was the reason I got into the hobby. Desiree Monet, I don't know how to say her last name. I'm a horrible friend. At Cold Blooded Cafe, she was my mentor for a long time. She was the reason I got into monitors, and I left her collection that night and I said, I want that. And so I feel like just sharing our personal experiences is a huge step in order to bring in more people. Like Abby said, there's no wrong way to do it. There's a million right ways. So, you don't have to have the biggest cage for a crested gecko, or you don't have to have the best thing for this. It's just about taking care of the animal and, loving on that animal. You don't have to have the best of it. You don't have to have an ocelot retic. You can start with a mainland that goes for $75. Like, there's nothing wrong with starting where you're comfortable with. And we have to remind people of that too. Like, don't go big or go home like I did. Go small and see what you're comfortable with, and then make your growth from there. And I feel like with how each one of us have grown, we've shown others like, hey, this is a great community to be a part of. I'm sorry, excuse me. And I love this community. This community has changed my world for the better, like mentally. The animals help me get up for the day, and these people become my family. They're my uncles and my brothers and my cousins. And we have to remember that too. Like, this isn't always a community, it's family too.
Yeah, I love that. I find, a lot of days too when I just don't wanna, because we all have don't wanna days. It's like, well, somebody is depending on me. So, I'm a mom, so I guess I have to feed the toddler. But like, there's also animals that need to be cleaned, and there's things that need our attention and need to get us up in the day. Julie, I wanted to come back to you. I think you kind of answered the question after Abby, but if you wanted to answer any more about what you think we can do to attract more women to the hobby and support them. Are you there, Julie?
I don't know. I think just yeah.
Okay, I hear you now.
I just think just putting it out there to like. Whoops. Can you hear me?
There's just a little bit of a delay, but we can hear you.
Maybe not. Okay. Yeah, I just think I feel like I should maybe be more available on social media and put stuff out there. But like coming back to Chris's question, like I'm a full-time teacher, and between taking care of the animals and doing my job, like it's hard to get the social media aspect up too. And to just come home and take a picture of an animal, um, like people might want. I'm like, I just worn out. I don't have time for that. But just making yourself more available. And I think podcasts like this are great. Just any kind of exposure we get is good. Like other women have somebody to like look up to, or just want to reach out to get help from.
Absolutely, I agree with you. And Chris, if you could put that question back up, I didn't get to read all of it, but I think that's a really good point, is that we've got so much more going on in our lives than just the animals. You say you want to do more on social media, and it's very draining. I was actually talking to Abby the other day, and I was like, I don't know how you do all of the things that you do, but I admire the heck out of it for you always posting content and putting things online. So I guess I'll throw this one to Abby then, since I mentioned you. Do you have a full-time job, or is this a full-time gig for you? And are there plans to keep making it full-time?
So I have a part-time job in Baltimore because I'm stupid. It's a 4 hour, 4.5 to 5 hours one way. No, that's stupid. It's stupid. It's 4 to 5 hours one way. But I only have to make that drive once a week. So, and only once in a while do I do it both directions in one day. But so I have that. I'm in grad school, and then I have the animals. And we're starting to get a little bit more interest in like the education stuff and all of that stuff. Chris, I will let you know when I start a full-time job. We can actually pay you.
Oh my God.
But yeah, kind of going back to something that Nikki said that stood out to me was realizing that this is something you want, but also this is something that you can do and do well as a woman. Like you can keep reptiles, which like whether it's a big monitor, whether it's a mainland reticulated python, whether it's crested geckos or green tree pythons or whatever it is, you can do it and you can do it well. And like, I really appreciate the men in the industry too. Like Chris is a great example of like helping us have a platform to talk about it, and having those male allies in the industry who are like, woohoo, all right, cool, here you go. Like I have a lot of friends who will refer people to me who are having issues with their retics. I'm like, cool, I will do my best. And if I can't help them, I'm sending them to Tim. So, it's just that, like Nikki was saying, kind of that family aspect of like, if you don't have the answer, that's okay. There is someone who does, and we probably know who they are. So help each other.
For sure. Yeah. Nikki, what about you? Do you have a full-time gig, or do you hope to make this a full-time gig at some point, or will it just stay a hobby for you?
So I do work full-time. I work from home though. And I know it sounds like a joke, but I really actually do work 8 hours from home. So it's kind of a bonus just because all my animals are right here. So I'm like, I'm going to take a 15-minute break and go see the turtle. It's kind of nice. To be honest, I would never want this to be a full-time gig because I don't want to have to rely on my retic to lay eggs to feed my family. It's just very stressful in my personal opinion, and people that do that, because I just don't. No thanks. I feel like the only reason it would be like full time is I would love to do education. I'm working on getting LLC so that I can get insurance so that I can do education. I've mentored with so many great educators like Tim and Caitlin and Lucas at Cold-Blooded Parties, and I loved it. And it's like, I want to share why I love these animals with other people, and I feel like that can kind of go back to, how to get more women in this industry is we don't do this just because, like, it's a snake, we didn't do that. It's because we love these animals, and like what we should share why this is so much fun and why we're into it. It just, there's a passion there, and we have to get that out.
I definitely agree with you on that point of not wanting to make this hobby a full-time thing because it puts so much more pressure on you, and it makes you put pressure on your animals. I mean, I feel like you look at them in a different way, and boy, I can tell you, I have not had the greatest retic breeding season. So, if I was relying on them to feed my family, like that would be stressful. Instead, it's kind of oh, well, it happens. And, you kind of just accept that and you go with the next thing that, life throws your way. So, like you said too, I definitely respect the people who do this full time. They definitely, have a different level of appreciation for the animals than those of us who are doing this more as a hobby. I would like to ask another question. What is something that you wish someone had told you as a female getting into the reptile industry before you got in? Is there something that's come up along the way that you're like, I wish I knew that before I started this journey? And maybe it has to do with being a female, maybe not. I'll leave that kind of open. But Julie, would you like to take a stab at that one first? What is something you wish you knew before you'd gotten into the hobby, or somebody had told you? You're on mute, Julie. I think she might be freezing a little bit. Nikki, let me ask you that one. What is something you wish you knew while Julie is able to get back?
So the main thing that the big tip I've gotten is don't go overboard and don't get too many animals. And it happened. I don't. What's too many? I don't. What's that?
Subjective. It's fine.
But I think the one thing that I really want to drill into my head more is just leave the animals be. I get really it goes back to the maternal thing. I get really worried over my animals if they're sick or something like that. And my first thing is oh shit, I gotta go to the vet, or whatever. So I'm texting all my friends, and they're like, dude, that's normal, it's fine. I'm like, but it's not fine. You don't get it. So I become really over worrisome over my animals, and I just need to remember these animals are hardy. They live in the wild. They're not, they're not like us where they need every little thing. I mean, of course they need necessities, but I just need to remember to leave them be. That's my big thing.
We want to over nurture them, maybe.
Yeah, it's so bad, especially with my monitors, because they're my world. I love my monitors. So I'll be messaging Mike Stefani or Aubrey Pruitt, and they're like, dude, it's fine, just leave them alone. I'm like, I can't. I gotta know what's wrong. I don't understand. So, and Mike, that's been Mike's big reminder to me, is just leave them alone. I'm like, okay. So we actually have a sign that says, Nikki, do not open, because I'm kind of guilty about that. So.
I love that a couple people, Boza and Big D's, you've made the comment that there's no number that's too big. In my opinion, it's kind of funny when colleagues or people who are outside of the industry ask me how many snakes do you have?
Yes.
My typical answer is I have the number that I have, because if you say the number that you have to somebody outside of the industry, it's kind of shocking. But you say it to one of us, and you're like, oh yeah, that sounds about normal. Abby, what about you? What is something that you wish you had known or somebody had told you before you got into the reptile industry?
I probably would have. I wish I would have known retics make as much noise as they do, because oh my gosh, my first retic gave me a heart attack about 3 different times because he was sneezing so much. And the general rule of thumb with snakes is if they're sneezing, they have an RI and it's about to die, and you need to go take it to a vet. So I'm freaking out. Obviously that's not true, which all of us on here know because we all keep retics. But yeah, it's really interesting. I shared a video of one of my retics sneezing, and I didn't think it was going to get a lot of traction because it had my face in it. And usually anything with my face in it, Instagram's like, we don't want you. We just want the snakes. But it did. And I got so much hate on that because it's like, your snake has an RI, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, can you ask a question first, though, rather than just assuming and like read the caption and like all of the information I posted on there for you? But I will say, I'm kind of glad I went through that learning curve because it's given me a little bit more reason to share stuff like that on Instagram, even if I do get a lot of like the hate, because I've also had a lot of people be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for like sharing that with me, because now I'm not going to have a heart attack if I hear my like I know what to look for. So
He's back.
hey, Julie made it back.
Julie, we're so glad to see you back.
Sorry, I am having like so many technical difficulties, and this is what we're gonna go with. I just went on my phone. And
No,
you're
fantastic.
and I'm like
I'm
really
on my
far
phone.
away,
Yeah,
and
phones
I
are
can
great.
barely see you all, but we're good.
Yeah.
So, Julie, now that you're back with us, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit.
Okay.
What is something that you wish you knew before you had joined the hobby, or that you wish somebody would have told you?
To like not buy everything you liked, to like slow down and just pick a few really nice things and be happy with those, and don't overwhelm yourself with like a whole lot of animals.
All the things.
I'm still not following that advice. So many things.
I think that's a natural tendency. Steven, my husband, keeps green tree pythons as well, and he's always like, "You just have so many different species. Like, how can you not just focus on one thing?" And I'm like, "How can you focus on just one thing? Because there's so many species to love."
Definitely.
Yeah. So next question. I would love to hear about your biggest accomplishments as a reptile keeper. Like, what is the thing that you are most proud of? And Julie, I'm going to throw it back to you again. What is your biggest accomplishment?
Right. I think our first green tree clutch, like that was a big learning. That was a big learning thing. We had a female who didn't follow any of the rules for any of like a pre-lay shed. She never stopped eating. She never acted like she was gravid, and she was large to begin with. We got her as a large snake, and it was hard to get the weight off of her. She's thinner now, but never did anything right. So we eventually just pulled her lay box because we were like, this is done. There's no point. We'll just let her be. And one day as I'm getting ready for work, my husband comes running in. He's like, she's laying eggs from the perch. And we'd gotten them in these tall enclosures, and we'd kept them in there. So she was on her top perch, just dropping eggs into the water dish, onto the floor. We were both freaking out, putting a lay box in there. So out of all the eggs we got from that, one of them like didn't make it in the water, and it wasn't a slug. And we hatched that one egg, and then we were able to keep that baby going, and we still have that baby. So like,
That's
a
incredible.
1 egg clutch from a green tree python to keep to the end is not an easy thing to do, but yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh,
That's
green
we're
tree
pretty proud of.
pythons, they'll give you gray hairs trying to breed those things. So tell us a little bit more about your most recent clutch too. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your red dominant clutch that you just got.
Yes, that one, we have not had a good season. I knew that was coming because last season seemed too perfect, and we got a couple great clutches. We had 23 babies in 23. And this year has not gone so well. We lost one clutch from the same mom who dropped him from the perch. She did it again. She shed, and then we'd gone to Colorado for a weekend to take care of some things at my mom's house. And she laid her eggs all over the floor. Beautiful veined eggs, but because she never curled up on them, never coiled on them, we lost all of those. And then we had a pairing with a friend, and that one was going just like clockwork by all the rules of the book, and she laid all slugs. I was like, oh no, so sad. So this clutch is a Biak mom. We picked her up from DM Exotics a few years ago as a little older juvenile snake, and then a Cyclops male that we bought from somebody. So really, really exciting pair. She did lay 10 eggs, and 9 of them went the distance until the very end, and then 3 of them, they didn't make it out of the egg. They just didn't come out of the egg. But the other 6 are doing great. Beautiful,
Yeah.
red babes. And it was surprising to have her be red dominant. That was exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Abby, what about you? What is your biggest accomplishment in the hobby? What are you most proud of?
Like my biggest personal accomplishment?
Yeah.
Probably that. So everything to do with Stella, our 12-foot girl.
Tell us more about what's going on with Stella. I don't know that everybody knows the story.
So Stella is the 12-foot super dwarf python in our care, and I set her up. This is all one enclosure in that giant toad ranch. And I was excited to get her. She's a breeder loan female from Garrett, but I was so excited to get her because I'm like, I'm going to try and set her up bioactive to see if I can get a bioactive successful for a 12-foot, 40-pound snake. And it is doing so well. Like even when she was not on her egg, which has since laid a clutch and is doing maternal incubation in there, as probably most of you know because I post about her all the time on Instagram. But yeah, before that, she would like climb around and explore, and like I haven't had to replace a single plant in there. Like she has planted plants, and it's doing really well. So I'm like, I know I'm not the first one to do it. I know I'm not. There's other people that do beautiful enclosures. But it was one of my personal goals. And I was like, it worked. And I'm just really excited. Everything is doing well so far.
That's awesome. That is definitely something to be proud of. I always kind of wondered if it would work. I thought, retics, they're so strong and they're heavy, and I would think that they would crush the plant. So that's amazing to hear that that's working out really well for you. Nikki, tell us about your biggest accomplishment in the hobby. What you're most proud of.
That's all. Well, both of you, that's awesome. I love hearing that kind of stuff. Like it motivates me, like hardcore. I may not be doing the same thing, but it's awesome. I love it. So far, my biggest one is we have a water monitor. Her name is Sassy. She was very sassy, and now she's not anymore. Need to name her Cuddles or something. She just laid a clutch with us on March 24th, and 3 of those eggs were parthogenesis. And so far, we still have 1 that's still in the incubator. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm pretty proud that she's been able to cycle and get that going here. I think that's a huge thing for me. None of our males are ready yet. But at least I can get them cycling and get them ready for when I do have males ready.
That's super exciting. Was that like just the biggest surprise, getting 3 partho eggs from her?
It was so cool. I was like, what do I do with these? And I'm like freaking out. And it was really cool. I really hope that this one makes it. I've messaged tons of other monitor keepers, and they've never had a monitor go to term. As far as water monitors, but I know a few people that have with like croc monitors, and there's another monitor. I can't think of the name right now. My brain went blank. But I've heard other monitor keepers have really good success, so I'm hoping that maybe I can be that 1%. We'll see how it goes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm sure we all, monitors are kind of like something I've always been really intrigued by with their intelligence. It's not something that I've ever, considered for right now at this point in my life, just because I know they need a lot of stimulation and they're very smart. And like, okay, let's, Jen, let's stay in our lane for right now. But I'm sure we all have kind of a bucket list species that's something like this. Someday, what is that one reptile that you want to keep? So who wants to go first with their bucket list reptile species?
I've always wanted a Cuban rock iguana. Always. Like that was my thing.
I love that.
Like in this room, before we put all these here, like we were thinking about like how we build an enclosure in here, and it would go to the window so we could build an outside enclosure for it too. And then I went and got myself a Great Dane puppy instead. So
priority.
And now we have a
Child.
Doberman too. So it's a full house now. So that's a dream probably that won't ever come to fruition, but I love them so much.
I love that. Nikki, what about you? What's a bucket list species?
I have two. I would love to own an Aldabra tortoise. I love giant animals. If I could own an elephant, I would. Like, and then I would love to own a croc monitor.
Another giant lizard.
Yeah. See? Giant things. I need to rename our business to Giant Reptiles Only or something stupid like that. I don't know.
So funny. I love it. What about you, Abby? What's your bucket list?
Oh, geez. Besides all of them?
Literally
all of them.
Literally life.
No, I think more my kind of hopes and dreams reside more in expanding to more space. So, either building a separate building or expanding on the space that we have now to facilitate bigger enclosures for everyone. And, I wouldn't say no to a banded Java water monitor, but but again, that takes a lot of. I'm really happy with the crew that we have here now, honestly. I think you can raise up any reptile to be your dream reptile, in my opinion. Serendipity has a funny way of being like, here's this thing that was meant for you. It's like, you know what? That wasn't on my list, but it's just kind of a thing that landed here. So I spent the first half of my life fighting the universe. I'm like, it's way easier if you don't.
Give in and go with it.
Exactly. So, and I'm very happy with where we're at and kind of where we're headed. So yeah.
Awesome. So that kind of brings in the next question on long-term goals. Like, what are your long-term goals in the hobby? Abby, I'll kind of toss it back to you because you alluded to it a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I would love eventually to buy a little bit more property and like expand and have. I have this vision of doing like a hybrid greenhouse / like heated building to do a super awesome, like do walk-in enclosures and just make everyone super luxurious and happy. And I'm also curious to see behavior wise how the animals would do if you just had like walk-in enclosures, would they still like come up to the glass and like be as interactive as they are when they're kept in, like these aren't small by any means, but just kind of observing how much. Sorry, my boa is escaping. How did you get up there? Oh my gosh, one of my boas is such an escape artist. I just looked over and she's looking at me over the monitor. Hold on. You see her? You see her?
Oh, surprise!
Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go fetch her really
Mommy.
quick. The lock on her enclosure is a little wonky, and she can fit. She's been out all day. Apparently she was not done. But things like that was good timing at least.
Yeah.
Like just curious to see if behaviors would shift given a little bit more, at pretty much as much space as I think that they would want. I'm just curious. It just would be interesting.
Would you have like a separate building like away from your house, or would you want it all like connected?
It would be, if anything, it would just be across our driveway.
Okay,
So
yeah.
super close. Yeah, and then like have my office in there probably. So hi.
Jody says, does he need to come get her?
No, she's fine. I just need to get her all the way out. She's like slowly waking up.
Oh, that's too funny. Julie, I'll pitch this one to you next. What are your long-term goals in the hobby? What would you like to do in the future?
I know I keep thinking about this as we're getting older. I'm like, oh, what are we going to do? So I think some of it, like I mentioned earlier, like kind of downsizing. We do not breed as many of the crested geckos, and I wasn't going to breed any this season. And I still had a few pairs. I was like, I've been growing these, like I've been building up to these projects, and I want to something of it because I still really enjoy the crested geckos too. But yeah, maybe more of like just what I'm keeping it better, and you seeing where we can get to with the green tree pythons, because that's just really like where our focus is at right now. And we're just love talking anything green tree pythons and doing anything green tree pythons. So.
That's awesome. I love your house horse in the background there too.
Yes, she's my baby, and you can't see the Doberman with his like head on my lap here. He keeps coming in. Nobody can understand why I'm just sitting here and not like hanging out with them.
You're like, Mom, we need your attention.
I know. There's.
Did you just call Julie's Great Dane a house horse?
I did.
That's awesome.
I used to have a house horse. I miss him very much. Great Danes are such great dogs.
Oh my god.
I know. I did. This is Indigo.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh my god.
Oh, face. Look at that face.
Oh, so beautiful. Oh, that's so beautiful.
So beautiful. I love it.
A mama's girl. Yeah, we didn't have one, and I wasn't going to have any more large Great Danes after we lost our boy a couple of years ago. But about a year and a half after he was gone, I'm like, yeah, no, I need slobber on the walls again, and I need
So much slobber.
I need no more room on the bed, and I just need again. So
Oh, that's great. Nikki, how about you? What are your long-term plans in the hobby?
I definitely I really want to be known for like my monitors. I really want to get my name out there in regards to that and breed more monitors, definitely. And while I really want to get into education, I think education would be something I would thrive really well at. So
That's awesome. That's a great goal. I think that kind of ties back to some of our earlier conversations about, how do we encourage more people to come into the hobby and, having that goal of being into the education and conservation space too is always, I think, a really, really great goal. So throw this one to all of you. What do you, and Nikki kind of already alluded to it, but what do you want to be remembered for in the reptile hobby, whether it's a species you work with or some kind of personal attribute? Would love to know what you want to be remembered for. Nikki, I'll throw that back to you.
Megan is known for her anacondas. Megaconda is Megan's. I want to be Nikki, crazy lady with monitors who has the sweetest heart. Like, I am a very caring, genuine person. Like, once you know me, like, you're literally my family now. So all of you, I love you, and you're a part of my world now. So you got to deal with it. So
I love that, Nikki. I see. We haven't met in person. You're the only one of the three guests tonight that I haven't met in person, but I feel like I know you because you've connected with so many people that I know in a relatively short amount of time in the hobby. So I think that's a really fantastic quality that you have.
She will pounce on you when she sees you in person because that's
I'm like
somehow at Tinley after the main doors open, we found ourselves like at Aubrey's booth at the same time, and I just heard someone say, "Are you Abby?" And I turned around with Nikki, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" She just like pounces on you. It's great. It's awesome. Like Nikki is Nikki. Like, so you're already halfway to your wanting to be known for having a good heart. So
that's awesome. Abby, what about you? What do you want to be remembered for in the reptile hobby?
I don't know. I haven't put a lot of thought in that. My main focus is just giving the animals what they want and what they need, and advocating for, actual education.
Yeah, it just froze.
Education over assumptions, like sensationalization. So just kind of sharing what these animals are.
My alarm went off, and then it.
Did it go weird, Nikki?
Am I on it?
I think we lost.
I can't hear them.
Oh no.
Feel free to continue, Abby. I think.
It's all good. That was
come back here soon.
Yeah, that was basically it. It was just kind of focusing on, the education and working with the animals as they are, not as we expect them to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an awesome thing, and you're well on your way towards that goal of being remembered as that. Julie, what about you? What would you like to be remembered for in the reptile community?
I think, and it might not be in the reptile community as much, but y'all talk about the education. Being an educator, I have 102 students that I teach every day. 102, 10, 11-year-olds. Just think about that, y'all. I was a little frazzled when I came on earlier. But I have a snake in the classroom. I have a tarantula in the classroom, and I have small lizards in the classroom. And so just, anywhere you go, especially because we're remote-ish out here, not totally remote, but all the kids come into my class talking about how the parents kill any snake that comes into their yard. So when they're with me, they learn that these snakes aren't needing to be killed, that there's something, just let them be and they'll move on. There's other things to do. And like every year I have students who are scared to death of my snake when they first come in the room. And about by halfway through the year, they're like, wow, I really like snakes now, Miss Gavin, I think. So just like that impression on 100 students every year on just reptiles and like spiders, things they are not normally exposed to in home. Like I want those students to remember just those experiences. Like that's what I want to be known for. Like just helping others get over their fears, and like really appreciate, because they just love. It's a California king snake in the classroom, and she's beautiful, and they're just always like, and she's very active. So she's a good snake to have in a classroom because she's active, and they just love her. And so I think that's what I want my imprint on the reptile community to be.
Your legacy as the lady with the snakes who made them not afraid of them. I love it. Nikki, welcome back. We're glad to have you back.
Sorry about that.
Make sure that you can hear us now, and we're
good. Sorry.
No worries. It happens. So we're already at an hour, and I can't believe how this time has flown, because you three are amazing and you have such great inputs. And I think you're such assets to the reptile community. So I'm super appreciative of all of you. We have a couple more questions, and then we're going to kind of wrap it up. But I do want to know, where can we follow along with each of your journeys? So Nikki, go ahead. Tell us how we can follow along on what Nikki Justice is up to.
So I'm on Obsessed Exotics, both on Instagram and Facebook. You will see so many monitor posts, it's not even funny. But it's who I am. And then I do have my personal social media. It's Nikki P0331, I believe. I just got married in September, so like I don't know what my name is anymore. It's either Justice or Pain. I don't know. So good luck.
I know that feeling.
It's been an adjustment. But yeah, you can see all of our monitors, all of my little pets. Yeah.
Awesome. Julie, where can we follow along with your journey?
So Crested G Ranch on Instagram and Facebook, but I'm trying to get better about posting there, because I've really just been posting on my JN Gavin 4, because we're like a lot of the snakes, like all of my other critters. Like we were kind of keeping Crested G Ranch for the crested geckos, but we're going to, rebrand. So I'm trying to keep that going too. So
Awesome.
Either of those.
We'll find you on Instagram. Abby, what about you? You're out there. Where can we follow along with your journey?
I am. It's the curly haired keeper on all platforms. So Instagram, YouTube, Patreon. My Facebook is just Abby Stone. But I rarely, like whatever I post on Instagram just goes to Facebook. Right. So if you follow me on Instagram, you're seeing everything that I would post on Facebook. So it's not, don't friend request me, because you'll just get lost in the void of, because I'm never on Facebook. So I'm not ignoring you. I just am never on Facebook.
No worries. Okay. We're going to have a couple of rapid fire questions, and I'm thinking I'm going to ask different questions. Nope. I'm going to ask the same one to all of you, but I'm going to do it really, really quickly. So I need a quick answer. Okay.
Oh no.
Julie, pythons or boas?
Oh, pythons.
Abby.
Both. Answer.
Pythons.
All right. Abby, coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Nikki.
Coffee.
Oh, tea.
Julie. Tea.
It's just you. What's wrong with you people?
We're in Texas, y'all.
I'm going to throw a hard one to you. Julie, snakes or lizards?
Oh, that's not fair. Oh, snakes? It's not fair.
Okay.
Not fair.
Nikki.
Both.
I know. That-
She's
I
like,
had
"Oh,
to pick
was an option. Abby.
lizards, but
Yeah.
I love them both.
All of them. People ask
All
me.
of the above. Okay, you guys are cheating. It's an either
I
or.
think they're
Don't
cheating.
care.
I didn't cheat.
I think Julie is winning though, because Julie's the only one actually answering the question.
I'm a teacher. It's in me. I got it.
Nikki, stay at home or go out?
Stay in.
Abby,
Stay in.
Julie.
Stay.
We all just take it.
We've got some introverted snake people here, I think.
Yes. It's hard to go out and make
Why do you
new
think we
people
have
snake
some
people.
animals?
Okay, Julie, summer or winter?
Oh, summer.
Nikki,
Summer.
Abby.
Fall. I'm losing this game real hard.
You are not playing by the rules, Abby. These are not the rules. It's okay. We'll let you have a pass on that one. Abby, Android or iPhone?
iPhone.
Julie,
iPhone.
Nikki.
iPhone.
Okay, we have friends among us. Okay. I just have to throw it in there. The Android people, Chris, I'm looking at you.
We see
They
you.
come into the group chat and they ruin the whole thing. Okay, let's see. Nikki, pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
No.
Oh, Abby.
No.
Oh no, Julie.
That's not that bad.
Get out.
If I had a choice about having a pizza tonight, it would not be
I
pineapple.
love pineapple on pizza.
Do you really?
Oh,
See?
definitely
You
good.
can have mine. You can have mine, Jen. More for you.
Okay. Julie, sweet or salty?
Oh, sweets.
Abby.
Salty.
Nikki.
Sweet.
Sweet. Okay. And Nikki, Netflix or HBO Max?
Netflix.
Abby.
Netflix.
Julie.
Netflix.
Oh man, you guys, Game of Thrones on HBO Max. This is the only way. This is the only way. This is why I'm Mod Exotics, Mother of Dragons.
That's true.
I just got that!
Mm-hmm.
Nikki has joined the chat.
I'm blown.
I love it.
Oh.
You guys are so awesome. I have had such a fun time talking to you. I'm going to allow you to have any kind of final thoughts or comments that you want to add. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you want to let the world know? This is your platform to do so. Who would like to go first? Final thoughts, comments?
Oh, did you want us to answer Chris's question?
Yeah.
So-
Sorry, I didn't see that. What are your thoughts on the current market, and where do you see the market going over the next few years? And do you think the market will see COVID pricing again? Oh, that's a very interesting question. Yeah, let's do that one. Abby, go ahead.
I mean, I would say I don't really care because I'm not really in it for the market. You know what I mean? Like, if we're responsible in our breeding and the market is going down, you do less pairings. It's just kind of, match the supply and demand. But I think people really see Nikki's struggling over but yeah, I think people see the passion and the love and the effort that responsible breeders and caretakers put into their animals and respond to it accordingly. So it's just, I don't have a crystal ball. That would be cool and also terrifying. So I don't know. I think we just have to kind of be responsible in kind of following along with those trends and not overdoing it.
That's a great answer. Julie, what about you? What do you think about the current market? Do you think we'll see COVID market prices again?
Oh, I don't know if we would ever see COVID market prices again. That would be like a dream, of course, for breeders. But I don't know if we'll see that. I think it's probably going to get more stable. But as Abby said, like when we saw this coming, Todd and I hit the brakes on breeding the crested geckos. Like there was no way we were going to fill our rack. Like our rack is barely full right now. because we knew that there wasn't the market for it. And we don't like selling our babies for really cheap. Like I have a hard steady, like nothing under 100, because I feel like there's a price where people, it's a, if you're not paying that much, they might not be going to get that exotic vet care or putting the care into an animal that you would want, that you've raised this animal to get. So, yeah, we've kind of watched the market that way. There's no need to oversaturate. I think the prices will go up. I think the market will go up, but it'll be a steady climb and nothing too, I don't see it getting any too crazy anytime soon. I kind of see like where we're at. It's kind of like when we started, kind of like that more reasonable pricing.
I feel a lot the same way, especially with the mainland retics, that they shouldn't be sold dirt cheap because just anybody can get one, and the cost of housing it and feeding it and vet care is just, it'll be exorbitant to somebody who's coming in with like $50. Like, here, I want a mainland retic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's an interesting perspective on where the market needs to be, just so that we can have responsible keepers in the market.
Right.
Nikki, how about you? What do you think about the market stabilizing? Do you think it'll go back to COVID level, or where do you think the market's going to head?
So I didn't really know COVID pricing. I saw somebody wrote that it was really cheap, which I could believe. I mean, I kind of agree with you guys in all aspects, because I mean, you have to keep certain animals at a certain price, because I mean, this isn't something that you can throw away. It's a lifetime commitment, or at least 10 years of commitment. I honestly, I don't have anything really to add. You guys really covered it really well, so great job.
One thing I do want to kind of add to that, and it became clear with your answer, Nikki, is that I think it depends on the species, because the markets are different for different species. Like, we saw some go way up during COVID. We've seen some go way down, just because so many people suddenly had time on their hands and they're like, let me breed some snakes. So, I think it depends on what species we're looking at. They all kind of do their own thing. Okay, I am going to try to let us wrap this up. So, final thoughts, comments, anything you want your platform to share with our viewers tonight. Abby, do you want to go first?
Sure. Mine kind of wraps into the last question that Chris just asked, which was any advice for new women keepers coming into the hobby. And I would just say, be unapologetically yourself and ask all the questions, and know that it's never going to be perfect, and that's okay.
Awesome. That's great advice. Julie?
I say the same thing, and I say too to reach out to any breeder working with the animal that you're most interested in and that you're keeping, male or female. Like, look for the people who know the business, look for the people who are the experts in that, and reach out to a few different people. Just keep yourself open, but enjoy. Like, it's an amazing hobby. And like Nikki had said earlier, don't burn yourself out on it by doing like too much at a time. Just always make it so it's just enjoyable for you.
It's awesome. Nikki, what about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love what both of them said. Definitely don't be afraid to get into this hobby just because it's male dominated. Like, we're here for you too, and we understand and we empathize. And if you don't want to reach out to a guy, because some of them can be kind of weird and creepy, that's what we're here for. Like, and don't be afraid to get going and just jump on in, because sometimes if you dive head in, that's the way you do things. So
I love that. That was something I had mentioned when I was interviewed on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, that we do see so much love and support from the other female keepers in the hobby, that we don't get into some of these measuring contests and kind of puffing our chests up at each other. And so I think it is such an important thing that us women keepers support each other, and we continue to help support new keepers in the hobby, and that we do our thing, but with integrity. So I really appreciate the three of you coming on tonight. Thank you so much. This is just the first ladies night episode, but I imagine there are going to be very many more, and I have to say it was so hard to decide even just who to invite, because I know so many kick-ass women in this hobby, and it's like, okay, who do we ask to come on the podcast? So thank you again from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate all of you, and thank you everybody who has tuned in. This has been a really fun episode.
It was so much fun.
Yes, thank you for having me.
All right, and with that, we will say good night.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.